week it was stupid StreamYard. So there you go.
That, technology can be sometimes a challenge. It's one of those things we deal with. But we're here
Especially
now.
when we're doing live. We're both
Yes.
alive, talking live with each other and all of you.
Yes.
So people might have a wonder about this question this week about why your relationship must come first. So
Hmm.
Barry and I are going to talk about that because I think you wouldn't always know why or that it should and what would be the good reasons, right?
And also, we're going to talk about maybe why things are not necessarily the way you think it is too. So we're going to make this more clear for you. So stay
Yeah.
tuned.
Yes. I think it's more complicated than people realize, and we're going to make it less complicated.
That's the
I love
ideal.
stay tuned. I remember that term. Thanks for joining us on the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles top network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. So,
So I thought this kind of piggybacked a little bit on last week where you have to come first. You're certainly a relationship with yourself.
mhm,
And then if you really want to have a successful romantic love, dating in the beginning and continuing to date and then having something that's really going to last, why it really does have to come first
yeah,
before really everything.
absolutely.
After yourself, for sure. Yeah. People, I think I mentioned one of the latest things that Allison Armstrong's talking about is people get into relationships and then hit the set it and forget it button. And that's not a good idea at all, to really
Oh,
be
yeah,
thinking about the priorities for sure.
that's the thing. I think so. Talked about this before about how the masculine mindset of the man is goal orientation, like to achieve goals. And so getting into a relationship is like, okay, we've got the goal. We can put feet up now. It's like, not really. So that's part of this, but there's a lot more to it in that conversation than we talked about before. Because the thing about relationships, and I want to make this point clear, is your relationship must come first, except there are certain circumstances. So we'll get to that in a bit too.
Yes. So setting that tone, if it's you've gone out with them for a while or you've been with them for a while and you really do know you have each other's best interest at heart, you are talking about a future or you're in working on a future and your life is better because you're together and their life's better because you're together. This is what we're talking about. A
Mhm.
good, solid, it's good for you both to be there and stay there, both of you. That's really the crux of this conversation today. And then we'll talk all the places around it where you don't want to make it first. You really do need to pull back and make yourself first. But
Yeah.
I think, as we said, the mistake that lots of people make, and it's nice of you to say that about men, because I always call out women a lot. So it's nice when a man says, guys, because sure, haven't what's the next goal? If you like having goals, which you all do, then what's the next goal? Let's talk about the next goal of how to make your relationship better, how to keep you as a better spouse or boyfriend or significant other or whatever term people are using nowadays at our age. What's the next goal for you to up level, to make
Yeah.
yourself better? And so we'll talk about what we want to give from either side of a men and women and what we'd like to receive that helps us feel first. Because that's the other thing. Often the way that we feel first is different than how the other person feels first.
It's true, but also I want to put some initial things on the table, because one thing I'm aware of also is, and you said about when you get more serious, you get more committed, and you want to have that relationship. One of the things that people sometimes forget is that means that how you look at life is through a lens where your relationship becomes before other things. Because one of the challenges for people in relationship oftentimes is they've been single a long time, have established a certain way of doing things, and when they get in a relationship, they don't change any of that. And so they may have made, I don't want to say, well, in a way, it's not making assumptions, because we don't actually say something like, honey, I'm going to do this, or, say to my partner, like, I'm sorry, I've got a commitment to this thing I do every week. I'd love you to come with me, but this is the thing I need to do for myself, sort of thing. So it's like, there are things we have in our routine, like, for example, maybe as a guy gets together with the other guys, every week to go, they go down to the bar and they watch football or something. Well, you don't just leave the house and go do that. You tell your partner, honey, these you want to go with the guys, is that okay? Or not so much, it's not like you're trying to like, hey, mom, is it okay to go out? It's more about making sure the partner knows that the relationship is important to them. Because one of the challenges is if one of the partners feels they're just going to go do what they do because they've always done that, the partner who's left behind can feel like they don't value the relationship. So even though you want to incorporate some things into your life that you still do, you want to make sure the relationship has the value in your life, that it's clear you communicate about it before you do anything else.
Yes. So the words we generally, as 2X people, like hearing is, my relationship with you is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hear this from you. And one of the ways that I stay my best self is that I need to have time with my guy friends. So one of the ways I have time with my guy friends is that I have a friend, my hairdresser, actually, he plays poker with guys every week. They just have the best time. The money is a close second, but it's their time together because they've been doing it for, I don't know, like 30 years or something. So this is really important. And I come back in a better mood, and I can get out all my guy stuff with them. And then I can come back, and it makes me easier to listen to you when you want to talk about something. That's a good carrot for us. So if you tell us why you're doing it and how it has to do with us, and that you thought about us, about why you're doing this, if we're secure and we're happy in ourselves and we have things to do in our life, generally we'll say fine, as long as you've said it that way. But I always do this. Why would you be upset about it is not helpful. But I would see why a man would say that, because why would you need to say it? Because it's so obvious. I'm just telling you, if you want us to now be so excited to have you come home, and maybe if it's not too late, you might get some extra attention, then do it this way instead, right?
That's the carrot.
Good carrot.
Yeah. So you're going to say something about the establishment of the relationship, because the thing, we'll say one more thing. Some people I don't think really understand that when you get into a relationship with somebody, basically their whole worldview is going to change, and their whole reflection of themselves is going to change, because it is so tempting, and I know it myself because being single for a long time, to just do what I need to do and keep going, and then to realize that, hang on a second, I need to plan for two, and plan to work with, and to negotiate and to have understandings, because the get and go thing that I've had running myself for so long can't do that on its own anymore. So it's like that sort of a shift that has to happen in a person, especially if you've been away alone for a while, or not been in a relationship for a while, to have that pause before you act, to go, let me check with my partner about something I want to have happen, I want to do with them, or would they like to come do this with me?
Mm-hmm. Just checking in is so polite and so caring, and demonstrates that you're putting the relationship before everything. Now, it popped into my head that one of the caveats is, when I married my late husband, he had a 16-year-old daughter and a 36-year-old son. His son was away, married, had just had his second baby. His daughter still lived at home and had just started going back and forth to her mom's house. But for the first 4 years, she had only stayed with him. So I went into that marriage knowing I was number two behind her until she was an adult. And I was kid come first, and I was fine with it. And I was really clear about it. So I didn't get upset with anything. In fact, encouraged him, please do more with her. It'll make her like me, maybe more, certainly dislike me less if she does that. That's the biggest caveat, that if there's a minor, only a minor, because grown children, adult children are a whole nother set of circumstances. But this is the one thing I'm going to say, you need to put them first. Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you're in a place where your ego is such that you want them all to yourselves and forget the kids, you're going to lose that relationship very quickly, because it's not appropriate. You definitely need to respect the family unit that was there before, that you're not entering into as initially as a guest. You're not actually part of that family yet. So how you treat that family is going to pay out dividends if you treat it with respect, kindness, and deference, so that they know that you're someone they want to have included.
So one of the other circumstances I've heard where especially men have not felt like they were being put first was when a woman says, I want to move my mom or dad or parents in with us because they're not doing well, or, they could help with the kids, and it would be really helpful to have them around. And I always say when I've heard that circumstance, oh, did he get a vote? Well, no, he said it was fine. He said he was fine with it. I said, good. Did he really vote? Did he talk about how that might affect his life? No, he just said, okay. And she said, the latest one I had this conversation with was, well, why wouldn't he say, why wouldn't he be okay with it? And I said, because how would you react if he said no? And I said, I have a feeling he might not get as much sex as he would like. I was in a I could say that to her. And she went, oh. I said, so he might still say yes. It's really courteous to give him a vote and see if there's something he needs differently than what you were just thinking about moving them in and holding, just completely changing, because it's his house too, and it's his marriage too, and it's his time commitment too, and his finances too, possibly. And he really should get a vote. So she went away thinking about it. She wasn't a client. These people tell me stuff at just dinner parties. So I was curious to hear later what she would do about it. And I realize this comes up a lot. Sometimes men can be kind of pushy about it, but I've heard lots more women are pushy about that. And I'm sorry, your romantic relationship needs to come first. Yeah.
That is definitely a challenge with that. It's dynamic. There was something else that was come up and this I talked about before, not last week, but in the previous episode, about how for the masculine-hearted man, I said the relationship comes third in their lives because it comes after their relationship with spirit and the relationship with their purpose, their calling, wherever their work is in the world. And I think this is true in this conversation too, because ideally a man who's doing work on himself and is doing this sort of work has really discovered his own relationship to what he would call his God or his maker, whatever you want to call that. Now, if you're an atheist, this may not make any sense, but I've been on spiritual path for many years, and it's very important to me that there's a relationship I have with the divine in my life, and it's not something I spend all my time doing, but just inwardly, that I need to keep going strong and being healthy, so then I have the space to then focus on what my calling, my work in the world is, because for a masculine-hearted man, purpose must be a priority. So when I have a relationship, those two things don't get put on her plate, which means I can have more time for the relationship because I'm not giving her the responsibility for things that aren't hers to deal with. So for a masculine man, for me, I did, because, and again, as I said before, we masculine-hearted men are much more linear, so it's sequential. So we need to get certain things established first so we can do other things. So having a relationship with our purpose, a relationship with what we call divine spirit, God, whatever you call it. So then when I have a relationship with my partner, she gets to have all that joy and freedom and everything that I want to have with her without any pressure on the other things. So, and I don't know if the women have a similar thing, but it's different because I know women, the feminine has the ability to handle things more multifaceted and more simultaneously than we can.
And certainly, I can't imagine in your personal relationship that you would have with a woman that she wouldn't already be very aware that this is who you are and what your practice has been and how you stay engaged with it on a really regular basis, however that is the regularity, and appreciate how it's helped you be the guy that she's now fallen in love with, that of course she would want you to do that more. And so your relationship with this source that now feeds you helps you even more put your woman's relationship even more forefront for you, because you're making sure that you're staying in line with that so that you can be even more supportive and available and present for her. And that if you don't keep that part up, then you wouldn't be the kind of guy that she'd want to hang around with, I would imagine.
That's very clear. Yes, I have basically have had the experience in the past where I basically gave up everything for her. So putting that relationship first was a mistake because it wasn't fully embraced through my authentic nature. And so I ended up giving up so much of who I was to be in the relationship. She was like, well, who's the guy I'm with now? Wasn't who I was attracted to. So yeah, definitely not clear. Yeah.
And somebody who is a similar alignment, that however their spiritual life they put into practice that keeps them in their feminine alignment, that makes them the person that you were attracted to, that I would be attracted to, so that then you keep just allowing the space and building each other up. So for the people who don't have that as part of their life, certainly, how do you continue to keep your energy level up, your battery charge, so that you can keep putting your relationship first? So that think about, what is it you need to do for yourself, that relationship, however it is, really is first. But for another person, that it needs to be your committed romantic partner. And with you saying what you said, I have certainly watched the couples that I know, that Donna's 62nd anniversary was 2 days ago, and my brother and sister-in-law have now been married 49 and a half years. There are times when they really have had to step back momentarily and put the other person first. Of course, with the health crisis or so, but there's something can happen emotionally. Okay, I'm gonna suck this one up, and I'm gonna be here for you, and because I know you'll do the same for me sometime. So it's not be completely available for them all the time, but
Right.
there are times when, because usually when that's happening, when you're giving back and forth, and you couldn't, you think of every day you get up going, what could I do to make their life better, happier, easier, more carefree, more caring about me? That usually gives back, and there's lots of reciprocity, and it makes it a little easier. And then there's times when you might have to suck it up, buttercup, for a moment. You just might. And when you've got that pattern already, that you're not going to collapse yourself, you're not going to give yourself up in the process, there's the teeter-totter, the balancing all the time. If you're both looking out for each other, how do we continue to, okay, I've done this, and now I have to, is there somebody else that could come do this for a minute, because I need to go over here and recharge myself and go do something else? That you have that kind of relationship where you can go back and forth like that.
Yeah, and to anchor that point, for me, having said what I said earlier about put relationship with spirit first and put purpose first, it makes me more solid in who I am, so I can be more available to my partner, and so therefore she gets served better by who I am because of that role. The secondary piece of that as well is, I have no problem at all if my partner wants to jump into spiritual practice with me, whatever I'm doing, for meditation or other things I do spiritually, that she wants to play in that arena as well. No problem at all. It's not like I have to keep it separate. But I'm saying that's what I'm doing regardless. And if she wants to join in, great. If she doesn't, it's fine too. She may have a whole different practice that she does. And my purpose, I've sort of said for a long time, the work I do in my purpose in life, I'd love to have a partner that does that with me. So it'll be very additive and it's very available to do that. So that's, again, not exclusive, but it's just it's like those are the things I'm committed to right now, and relationship would add to that. Second thing I want to talk to, which we actually will do after the break, is about prioritizing other things in life, friendships, family, compared with your relationship. So we'll get to that after the break. So we're going to do it to wrap up before that.
Yes. So if this is intriguing and you're thinking, oh, I never thought about it this way, I think I might want to get some more information about this, and maybe that's one of the things that's been missing in my relationships in the past, you could reach out to Barry or I. And the best way to reach out to me is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll down to the middle of the page. You can click on What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. And there's 10 brief questions, where you are now, where you'd like to be. And then you have access to my online calendar, and you can schedule a complimentary call at your convenience. You can also send me a personal email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would they do that with you, Barry?
Well, similarly, if you have some questions and you're feeling like this topic has provoked some things for you to think about, you reach out to me on my website, which is barryselby.com. And on my site, similarly, I have an option at the top of the screen to click on a Let's Chat button, basically, or a conversation button, which gets you on my calendar. And also, as you fill out a questionnaire first, so you really can navigate where you are and where you want to go. And if things that you've got questions about, I can answer and help you navigate where you want to go in a relationship. Also, you can drop me an email at barry@barryselby.com. And I'm going to mention that later on at the end of the show, but definitely keep that bookmarked, because we'll talk about that later as well.
So we're going to take a short break, advertise this wonderful station that we get to put our podcast on, and we'll be back with more conversation about why your relationship must come first.
Indeed. See you in a moment.
Hello, we're back with Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, and today we're talking about why your romantic relationship must come first. It's
Yeah.
really the crux of the conversation today. We're talking about other relationships around it, but generally, it's really important to figure out how to concentrate on it and what the other person might need and what you need and talk about it so that you always feel like you're first in each other's minds. I think that it's one of the reasons I hear people that have had very long, successful relationships and marriages is that they have felt that way.
Yeah, that it's a vital piece. And I mentioned before the break about talking about other relationships. There's been conversations I've had with clients where basically, like when they go home for Thanksgiving, which is a very interesting topic we talked about before, where the conversation at the dining table, where their familial, what's what I'm looking for, contrasts can come up. Where if you're with your partner who you have common views with, and your family members who have opposite views, you may feel like you're in the middle between your partner and the family about who's right, who's wrong. And it's challenging sometimes because, especially if it's family you grew up in, your family of origin, there's a desire to be perhaps in agreement with them and in belief with them. So suddenly your partner becomes stuck out in the cold because their views don't count anymore. So I would say this is one of the recommended was have a conversation with your partner before you even go there. It's the first time you're visiting your family for Thanksgiving or some other social gathering, some event, maybe it's a wedding or a funeral or something like that, with your partner. It's good if they're informed and advised about what that's going to look like when they get there, so they can be prepared and forewarned, so they can actually be a good partner to you versus walking in totally alien to what's happening, and you're sort of going, "Oh, by the way, this is my, it's not ideal." So your relationship must come first in the sense of understanding how to accommodate and be understanding what your partner may be facing when you go through something you're very used to, because that can be a very interesting dynamic to play with.
Oh my goodness, that's such a good point. And with, meeting your friends too, that if you have different political views or religious views. So one of the other things about keeping your relationship coming first is to never talk about your partner negatively in front of them or when they're not there. Ever. Never, ever, ever. It's so tempting to complain, especially as women, because we feel better if we complain. We feel better when we get sympathy about it. And it's so damaging because you're listening to all the things that are wrong with them. What I've learned too, personally, a long time ago before I stopped doing this, and professionally when I hear it now, that you now get everybody else all riled up against your partner. And now you go back and you get all made up and they're still mad at him and they're going to bring it up again the next time you're together, or maybe treat him differently or her when they're with you. So it's such an important rule, I think, to generally not say negative things. If you have something negative to say about them, say it to them. Go in front of a coach by yourself or together, or to therapy alone or together.
Yeah.
But just don't. And don't make snide offhand comments when you're out with them. If you have an agreement that this is how I watch it and I'm like, wow, they really are fine, because I am not with that kind of teasing. We all heard Christina's too sensitive for all that. Won't work. Don't do it. But I've watched people there was a thing, I'm even too young for the Bickersons, but I kept hearing about the Bickersons, that they had some sort of a radio show or something, and all they did was bicker, but they liked each other. And I've come across people, a few that really is how their dynamics and how they communicate. If it's working for them, have at it. Most people that are complaining, it's not going to make them feel better, and it's certainly not going to bring them closer, and it's not going to make the other person change and do something differently. They're just not. So don't do it. Just no matter how tempted you are, just don't do it.
Absolutely. The way I would frame it is that it's kind of like it's like you don't eat. There's an old saying which is slipping in my head at the moment, but there's the sense of basically is like you don't talk out of school sort of thing. You don't air your dirty laundry in public, so to speak. And now, of course, you're seeing a therapist, a different story, because that's a contained environment. It's also confidential as well. But if there's something going wrong in your relationship, the relationship's where you do the work to clean it up. And if it's not going to work, that's a different story. And again, working with a therapist or a coach, something like that, to disengage is part of the process. But your friends aren't your therapists, and not your family. Because the challenge is going to be is some of those friends or family who may have had a resentment of the relationship from the beginning are going to be sort of going, see, I told you so. And so they're going to feel better because of your upset and your disdain, which isn't a good thing anyway. But also, they're not going to be supporting the relationship. So having the commitment to each other, the commitment to communicate, to share what's going on. And one of the coaching things I do with my clients is say, when you're talking to somebody and you're upset with them, you don't use them as the excuse to feel upset, because what we tend to say is, you did this to me and you make me upset. It's like, that's what we tend to do, but it's not appropriate, because first of all, that's not how it is. It's like, we actually get upset because we thought something and got a different response. So to own the languaging, saying, I feel upset when you do this, because what they're doing is what they're doing. Your upset is your choice. And when you learn to communicate that with your partner, you might discover that upset you have with them has nothing to do with them in the first place. They would just happen to be there present. And you realize that what's going on is some trigger you had when you were a kid from your dad that's starting to come up now. And you're basically throwing arrows at your partner to make them the victim of something that they shouldn't be carrying the wounds for. So being conscious enough and open enough to realize, before I get upset with my partner, is it about them or not? And is the upset something I can look at through a clear lens versus saying, I'm a victim to what they did? Because when you say you did this to me, your fault, you're actually giving them power over you by becoming a victim to what they did. And you don't want that either. You want to be equal to that.
You made so many good points, Barry. I hope people really listen to that and stop it and rewind it and listen to it again. So when your lovely friends ask, I teach clients to say, if you're still there, there must be good things. Say the good things. And then you can say, there's a couple things we're working on. I'll get back to you. That's perfectly acceptable. The rest of it is none of their business. They're not going to be helpful. Come back to me or come back to whoever it is you're talking to keep sorting it out. Yeah. Because complaining to just everybody, it's like eating a candy bar. You think you're going to feel better for the moment, but it's not satisfying. You aren't going to feel better later. So yeah, be honoring of this person that you're still in a relationship with. If you're still choosing to be in the relationship, then be honorable about it and don't complain about them outside of it. Yeah. And then also, you're pointing out that you're pointing this one finger, but there's these three fingers pointing back saying, oh my gosh, maybe there is something that I might be doing that I could do differently. What a shock.
Yeah. And that thing also about complaining to your friends about your relationship is just avoiding the fact you're not willing to face up to, is you've got to communicate with your partner. It's so easy sometimes to go to our friends because there's no cost there. It's just like vent, you feel better, and it's great. Meanwhile, your partners know anything that's going on and they can't respond to any of that. So having the honest communication all the time, good, bad, or indifferent, with your partner is the key way to help the relationship be healthy and also to make it come first, because your relationship is a vital part of your life when you're choosing into it fully. Yep. And I know relationships that have been less than healthy, and I know for definitely some of my clients who have been regretful about being in that relationship, who had to come out with emotional wounding and baggage and everything else. So I'm not saying all relationships should be honored no matter what. I'm saying a healthy relationship, and one that's positive, loving, and kind between the two of you, is something you're invested in, you want to support and be working with. If there is an issue that comes up, face it with each other. If you love each other that much to start with, are you willing to face the issue? Now, if your partner doesn't take responsibility for the issue, that may be a different conversation, and that's not necessarily for this episode. We talked about it before in other episodes. But to be willing to at least talk to your partner to say, this is what's going on for me, this is what I'm feeling at the moment, can we talk about it, is a way of actually deepening the intimacy when you do it the right way.
Yep. So another way to keep your relationship coming first is to, the state of the relationship meeting that I suggest people have every week. This is all the things that are going good. Is there something that you need to talk about? And is there something else additional that you need from me? Is there something else you'd like me to do or not do? Just in general, because you think if you're together for a bunch of years, you're both going to change. I mean, you really are. You're going to grow differently. You're going to, have different knowledge, different needs, and to just give them a chance to check in with themselves. Yeah, I think I need a little extra time to do my re-entry when I get home before we talk. Or, wow, I need a little more verbal attention. I need a little more complimentary, and whatever it is, and to have them think, well, what do I need? Because yeah, everything seems fine, but is there something else I need? And it was funny because I was coaching a couple the other day, and she kind of giggled, and I said, "What's the giggle?" She goes, "Well, there is something different I'd like in bed." And he went, "What?" It was such a fun conversation because it came out of the blue. She'd kind
Mhm.
of been feeling it in the back of her head and hadn't mentioned it to him yet. And he's like, and what would that be? Maybe I could do that. He's like
Mhm.
set up like a golden retriever. It was such a fun conversation. So you never know. It's not always a bad thing that they're going to ask.
Exactly.
You
Yes,
might
yes.
like it, whatever it is.
Taking it to the next level, perhaps.
You never know. You never know. So
Right.
it was funny because I thought of that and I thought, oh, we'll see if I remember it in the conversation because it was such a fun thing to happen that she's just like, oh, maybe. And he's like, yeah, I could. So then she said, and he goes, oh, yeah, I could absolutely do that. I'm all on board for that. So that was really fun. And it gets them going to have even more of that open conversation about, I just thought of a new thing. What do you think? In or out of bed, but it was just
Well, yeah.
fun.
Well, that's the thing about the State of the Union relationship conversation that you recommend, and I believe in it too.
Yeah.
Is it can feel like it's going to be a duty? It's going to be, let's talk about the bad news and all the problems and everything else. Like, what if that meeting every week is to up level and to improve the relationship because you have more fun things to do, or you decide you can plan a vacation together, or you can have more fun in bed, whatever it is that adds to the relationship. That's part of the conversation too. It's not just about, well, this needs to improve. We take out the trash more regularly, whatever that is. Yeah, that's mundane stuff. But you can have so much more depth and more availability and more intimacy in that conversation. So why not have that every week?
You had a woman say, I want to personally do the barbecue now and then. And he's like, okay. But she was a little concerned because it was his domain and he really likes it and he brags about it and he's bought all these tools. And he's like, no, that'd be cool. Glad you brought it up. So there could be just that. It was just fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily is the person going to be enthusiastic about it every time, but lots of people have been very enthusiastic about, really, you'd like that? You want to barbecue more? All right. I'll figure out how to do something else in the kitchen. I mean, it was really, people think it can't be this fun. It really can be this fun. And you see it's wrapped up in the package of how to keep the relationship coming first. Because I want a better relationship with you. And part of how it would be like, I want to do the barbecue and maybe you'll teach me. I mean, that was really a very fun conversation.
But and that is underscoring about, I guess in some ways the title of the show can sound pretty heavy laden. It's like, why your relationship must come first. Sounds so heavy and so responsible. The truth is like when you make your relationship first in this conversation with the things we've already put in place, it adds a lot more opportunity to play and dance and have fun because you've got more room and space to enjoy it. Because when your relationship comes first, it means you make more room for it. So there's more freedom to have and more chance to play and explore and enjoy each other. So the success of the relationship, the joy of the relationship, the fulfillment of the relationship is easy to attain because you're both in it to play, to have fun, to grow, to commit, to enjoy it. So having it come first is a good thing, not a bad thing.
It's a very good thing. Yeah, I remember my sister-in-law, it was a few years ago, actually it was before COVID. She suggested to my brother about, I've been looking at Taekwondo. Would you like that? And he said, yeah, I probably would. And they both loved it and they got such different things about it. And they did it together. So it was a thing they did together, but it's, you do your separate thing in the class and they
Right.
learned different things about their bodies and they would talk about it on the ride home and they would do their practices together. And it was really fun that they figured out another thing to do together that felt a little independent at the same time.
Yeah. And that's the other part too, is that there may be things that you always wanted to do that you never did until you're in a relationship, in which case the relationship becomes a great test bed for like, I've always want to try this thing. Can we do it together? Maybe it's going to cooking classes, or maybe it's going hiking or doing other things. I mean, I admit for myself, a lot of things I've done for myself because I've been alone and taking care of myself, like doing my daily hikes and everything else I love doing. A friend of mine should reach out to me, and it's not because we're dating, but just a friend of mine was like, she wanted to maybe join me one morning. It's like, sure, no problem. I realized that'd be fun for a change to have company. So being in a relationship with somebody to do things that I love doing and things I've not yet done that I would like to do. And of course, things that she would like to do will be something we can add to the relationship, make it more fun. There's things I'm sure my future partner has on her to-do list he hasn't done yet that I haven't done either. It'll be fun to explore together. So, yeah.
As much as we've talked about having a full life as a single person, there really are things that are way more fun to do with somebody. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're so curious, Barry and I, if this is landing anywhere, because really our goal was to cover a whole bunch of areas that at least something is going to affect land with somebody. Everybody's going to go, oh, that piece, I got that piece, I understand that piece, or I don't understand that piece, I want to add that piece. So if that's happened, we would just be so happy to talk to you about this and have you explore the rest of your life, how you could with a wonderful relationship that you'll each put each other first, because that's the goal. Both people have to feel that way.
Yeah.
So reaching me again is go to my website, www.theperfectcatch.com, scroll to the middle, sign up to talk to me. You can have a complimentary conversation with me through my online calendar. You can also send me an email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And on that same web page, on the homepage, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can click on all my social media icons of Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. And then you can also join my mailing list. You'll get a repeat of this podcast plus information about the other things that are going on in my life. And you can download my book, my ebook at the top. Just click on that and it's for free. It gives you just some few chapters of dating advice. And I'll ask for is your comments about it. What did you learn? Did it help at all? And then you can also talk to Barry. Barry, please tell people how to talk to you.
Don't you have social media at the bottom of your
I did.
page?
Yeah.
You did cover. Okay, make me feel.
Thank you for always looking out for me.
Of course. So similar to Christine on my website, you definitely go, as I mentioned before, at the top of the screen, you can click on the Let's Chat to have a conversation, get on my calendar, etc., etc. At the middle of the screen the bottom of the screen is my email list. You can just jump in there if you want to sign up for my email list and get on my list where I send out replays of the show as well. Things I'm working on. Quick sidebar, I mentioned about my email address, barry@barryselby.com. I'm launching next month. It's a 30-day, right now I'm calling it is Emotional Freedom. It's basically a 4-week class that's going to dive deep into healing emotional wounds from past relationships and stuff you're working on, maybe in the way of your next love. If that interests you at all, just drop me an email directly. It's not on my website. It's not official yet. It's just, I've already launched, I've ordered the information out. I've got 3 spots left. Drop me an email at barry@barryselby.com, put the word freedom in there and let me know you're interested. And I'll send you more information. Anyway, back to on my website. On the middle of the screen is one of my first quizzes that I created, which is a relationship readiness assessment. So if you click on the button in the middle and take the quiz, it will give you an opportunity to review where you are in a relationship now and where you're looking to go and what might be working for you and what isn't working for you. That's a real straightforward quiz. Will get you deep into what your own perception is and where you're going. You can go directly to it by going to barryselby.com/quiz. Secondly is another quiz, which I created, which is a relationship with the self, because a lot of my work lately has been about what is your relationship with yourself like. So if you go to barryselby.com/self quiz, that is a review of 7 areas of your life, or 7 areas of your own relationship with yourself, where you can gauge on how good or bad things are working, including things like self-trust, self-forgiveness, those sort of qualities. And if you're looking to find out more about your own relationship, go to that quiz and navigate through to see where you're going. Also, my website is my book, which is my best-selling book. I've had it for 13 years. You can get it on Amazon, everything else too. If you go to the book page, though, you can check out the AI-generated review of my book, which is very entertaining. It's a nice little discussion of my book by 2 voices that sound very professional, except they're AI-generated, which is kind of fun. And I mentioned that on the page. And for social media-wise, you can find me on all my social media platforms under my name, Barry Selby. So for YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Pinterest, you find me at Barry Selby. And on Instagram and on Threads, it's the real Barry Selby, because that account had to change. So you can find me all over the place there. And if you want to shout, you have ways of reaching me.
And we're here every week live at 1:00 Pacific and 4:00 Eastern and all the times in between. And then you can watch us on replay on YouTube and Roku. But if you don't want to watch us and you want to take us with you to just listen, where can they do that, Barry?
Yes, we're now on all the podcast platforms too. So if you want to listen to us when you're driving or hiking or exercising, going shopping, you can listen to all 230 plus episodes we've done. So we've been busy for quite a long time. If you listen to on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, I think on Amazon Podcast as well. So check us out wherever you go. We are there to support you.
And whether you're watching or listening, we would love you to like and review and share it with your friends that are having questions about their dating and relationship lives. We'd be happy to help them too. And
Yep.
we'll be back next week with another interesting subject.
See you then. Take care.
Bye now.